Okay, I would like to do a short video talking about some of the kinds of things that are in the course as far as assignments and the way the course is structured. So if you look at the home page in Canvas and just look down this list of things that are due, you'll notice 5 different kinds of things. The first 2 things talk about the forum. Then there's 3 or 4 things that talk about online assignments. And then there's a bunch of quizzes, quiz 1, quiz 2, quiz 3, then there's paper 1, and then there's test 1. And as you keep going, you'll see those 5 things over and over again, either online stuff, quiz stuff, paper stuff, test stuff, or I guess later on they don't have any more forum stuff, but those are the 5 things that we're going to look at. I'm going to talk mainly about the paper, the forum stuff in the next video. But in this video, I want to talk a little bit about the quizzes and the tests and a little bit about the online stuff. All right, so as you go through the course, you'll sort of end up thinking about it, I think, in 2 parts. Half your work will be on the lecture-related things, and half your work will be on the term paper-related things. So we'll talk about the term paper-related things later. The lecture-related things fall into quizzes and tests, and then some of these online things. So the focus of it is the tests. There are 4 units in the course. Each unit has its own, the first 3 units have their own test. The 4th unit will be tested on the final exam. But the final exam is also comprehensive. So it'll be partly on the 4th unit, partly on each of the other units. So Unit 1, Test 1, Unit 2, Test 2, Unit 3, Test 3, Unit 4, and then a final exam, which includes partly stuff from Unit 4, partly stuff from the other 3 units. All right. The units that we have don't actually match up directly with the chapters in the book. That is, we cover almost everything that's in the book, but we cover it in a slightly different order. The book has 4 units also, but its units don't match our class units. The book breaks things up into 4 sections. The first section is chapters 1 to 4, and that's informal logic. And then chapters 5 to 7 are the second unit, that's formal logic. And chapter 8 through 10 is a different type of formal logic, and then the last chapters are a different type of informal logic. So the book has like informal logic, then formal logic, then formal logic, then informal logic. And what you need to know is that there are these 2 different kinds of logic, informal and formal logic, and they lead to very different kinds of thinking. And then in my units, in the units for the course, we mix and match them, so that our Unit 1 for the course does some formal and some informal logic. And then our Unit 2 for the course does some formal and informal logic. So if you look at the way we cover things, our first unit will cover chapters 1 and 2 along with chapter 5. 1 and 2 from the informal logic section, chapter 5 from the formal logic section. Unit 2 will cover 3 and 4 from the informal logic, and chapters 6 and 7 from the formal logic section. Now, I'll keep you straight on this as we go. You don't have to remember all that. But it's in the syllabus. If you look at the syllabus, the very last page is a topical list of a topical schedule. And I list there exactly what chapters we're covering in each section of the course. So you should be able to keep track there. And it'll be really helpful for you if you're the kind of person who likes to make sure you know where you are in the textbook. All right, let's talk a little bit about the difference between formal and informal logic. Formal logic is very symbolic, and it's very mathematical-like. It makes logic into something that almost looks like algebra. It doesn't use numbers, but it has variables and it has rules for doing things, and you do a lot of kind of calculations, and there's a lot of memorization and a lot of detail work. So a lot of people in this class, I think they are more scared of the formal logic, but they actually tend to do pretty well on it, because it's all very clear-cut. It's black and white. If you learn what you're supposed to learn, then every problem comes out the way you expect it to. Every procedure you use works. There's no ambiguity about it, and no judgment or opinion or any kind of thing like that. So you may find that the mathematical-like formal logic stuff is the easiest part for you to get good scores on, although it may take a lot of work. Now, the informal logic is more based on the kinds of skills you need for English, for reading and writing. It's about interpretation of language and figuring out what people mean when they say things. And people, when they say things, are not mathematical. They're not black and white. They're not cut and dried. They tend to say things that are ambiguous, and you have to interpret everything according to the context and try to figure out what people are getting at. So for informal logic, our focus is on when somebody says something, do we understand what they're really trying to get at? And there's a lot of ambiguity and a lot of interpretation of what texts are. So that's what that part is about. Now, as I said, I'm organizing it so that every unit of the class uses a little bit of both. We'll look at a little bit of the informal logic side, a little bit of the formal logic side, because I think they work best together. So just be aware that that's how those go. Now, the tests themselves each test will be about 10 questions long. Most of the questions will be problem-based, the exercises. They will be very similar to the exercises that are already in the book. So we'll look at some set of exercises in the book, and then I'll give you something almost the same as one of the questions on the test. Every test has a study guide with it. I'll show it. You'll look at it later, but they're all under the modules. If you go to modules, there's resources, there's study guide for tests. There's a section on study guides for the tests. And there you can see the study guide for 1, 2, and 3 in the final exam. You can look at them right away if you want. And they tell you exactly what kinds of questions I'm going to ask. So you should know right from the start what you're expected to know how to do. And as I said, there'll be exercises. So it's not going to be multiple choice or essay. It's going to be, here, solve this problem in this way, and what kind of answer do you get? But logic-based problems, not number-based problems. Okay. The other thing that happens a lot with the lectures is their quizzes. Normally speaking, if I weren't doing all this online, I would have quizzes almost every day. If you look, starting from September 10th, we have quiz 1, then quiz 2, then quiz 3, then quiz 4, then a test, and then quiz 5, then quiz 6. Almost every single day we have a quiz. The quizzes are short. They're multiple choice in almost every case. They are about 5 minutes long. I give them at the beginning of class. You turn them in, and then immediately we talk about the answer. So they're more just simply to keep you on track, to make sure you're paying attention to what's happening in the lectures, that you're not getting lost anywhere. They're also good practice for the tests, because the quizzes, although they're in multiple choice form, are basically simpler versions of the kinds of things you'll be doing for yourself on the test. So the quizzes, they only add up altogether to 3% of your grade, but they're a good way for you to know if you're keeping up with everything. Now, because we're doing some things online this course, I also have some online exercises. About half of those are similar to the quizzes, except they're not multiple choice. They're normally, I'm setting them as group exercises normally that you'll be doing and I'll be responding to. And but they're still based on what the book exercises are in most cases. So online 1, page 9 exercises, you're going to do the exercises on page 9. Or actually, I'm just going to assign each group one or two questions to do. And online 3 diagramming exercises, we'll take those right out of the book and you'll do those. The other online exercises are based on things that will help with a paper, and I'll come back to those later on. Let me just show you briefly how the Canvas page works, because this is where you'll spend a lot of time. On the front page with the syllabus, you can see this list of things that are due. Over on the right-hand side, you can see all the graded, weighting for all the grades. Writing assignments come to 46% of the class, plus another. You also do some writing for the forums and the online assignments. Tests come to 40% of the class. There's a small amount based on the quizzes, the online assignments, the attendance, and the forum. I say a small amount, but that is about 15% of the grade. So those are easy points you should try to pick up where you can. Besides that, over on the left, there's a list of places you can go. If you go to modules, that's where all the resources for the course are. There'll be a section for video lectures in these first 3 weeks. I'm going to put a lot in there in the next couple of weeks. There'll be a lot more even tomorrow and Wednesday to help you get ready for some of the stuff we're looking at. Resources for lectures, we'll have handouts for various chapters, and we'll look at those as we get to them. The study guide for the tests I've already talked about, and the resources for the papers are very important things that tell you how the term paper works. I'm going to talk about that a little bit in my next section. If you go to grades, it just shows you your grade. There's also a thing in Canvas where you can put in what you think you might get on a test or an assignment, and it will tell you what your grade would be in that case, sort of a what-if, speculative thing. Below that, there's something called discussions. That thing that's called discussions is how you get to the forum. If you click discussions, it takes you to the forum, and then down here it says forum discussions, and so I can click forum discussions and it will take me into the forum. I'm going to talk about that in the next unit, but that's how you go to the forum and how you put things in there. There's an attendance page. There's a people page, which I'll explain later on. It's about helping you put yourself in groups. And then NetTutor. NetTutor is something that has nothing to do with me. It's just that the college provides this free tutoring service, and we include it in all our Canvas pages. I don't know whether it has anything to do with anything for Logic, but if it does, please take advantage of it. Okay, so that's what to expect here. All right, in my next video, I'm going to talk about the paper specifically and the forum specifically, and how to do these first couple of assignments. The one due tomorrow at the end of Tuesday, on the end of Tuesday, and the one due at the end of Thursday, and perhaps a little bit about the page 9 exercises and how to get yourself into groups. All right, thanks.